JOX 94.5. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell here with you on your. As Damian just said in the hallway, we're already halfway there. Feels like we just got started and we are already halfway there. You know, that's one of the best. I think we all appreciate when we have, when you have an extended weekend and obviously for something as important as Memorial Day and what it stands for. But I mean, let's be honest, we all like having an extra day off of work, right? But then I think we all forget about then when you go back to work and it hits you, it's like, oh man, I only got to go to work 4 days this week.
Yeah, yesterday felt like a Monday.
Yes,
It really
100%.
did. Just kind of getting back into the groove of everything. And then you wake up today and it's, oh, no, we're in the middle of the week. We're at the halfway point. So it's, we can.
Yes, no, we absolutely can because we are halfway there. So only, hey, 2 more of these and we'll be at Friday again. So absolutely love it when you get a little bit of a short week like this. But continue to be a little weather aware. It's still going to be another rainy day here. Going to rain for the next couple of days, it looks like, around the Birmingham area. Got pretty nasty at times yesterday. So hope everyone was able to stay safe. But we appreciate you joining us here this morning. Only one hour. We're going to be back at 7 o'clock when we hand you off to McElroy and Kublick in the morning. But we certainly have a lot to discuss because we have the SEC spring meetings going on down there in Destin. And we had a little bit to go off of yesterday because Greg Sankey had gotten down there on Monday night and answered some questions from the media, made a couple of comments. But now we've gotten to hear more from Greg Sankey. We've also gotten to hear some of the head coaches weighing in, and we just kind of have a better general idea of what the list of priorities the big top have been and will continue to be. And I will just say this: if you're hoping to get a resolution on are they going to play non-conference games in the SEC, don't know that this week because there seems to be a little there for some of these coaches of something else that they need to have resolved before they are willing to finalize potentially going to a 9-game conference schedule. So we'll dive into that. We'll tell you everything that's going on down there in Destin. Braves in action last night. Big series for them against the Philadelphia Phillies, looking to kind of shrink that gap that grew over the weekend there in the National League East. We're a little bit closer to knowing who's going to play in the NBA Finals, and I think it's going to be matchup that unfortunately zero people are going to watch because you can already make the jokes about the NBA and especially around here. I know a lot of people don't like it, but with the series it looks like we're going to get in the finals, I am really, I honestly feel bad for the NBA. I think their ratings are not going to be great, but we will touch on that. And we, of course, have some college basketball news with a little bit of local flavor to go around as well. So a lot for us to get to today. And we also have our last Mount Rushmore. It's a sad time, Damian. We've gone through it for 15 days now. We're at day number 16. We have the Vanderbilt Commodores. No, we didn't, plan like this as a joke, kind of, because in years past, you would have said, oh, well, we'll just say Vanderbilt for last. And we did end up doing that. But it wasn't out of any disrespect for Vanderbilt. It just kind of worked out that way. And so we're going to go through Vanderbilt today.
Yeah.
Lewis, appreciate you, brother. Already chiming in this
locked
morning.
Locked and
loaded. So we're going to do Vanderbilt again, maybe
a little harder than
other ones, but there's still a lot of great players to choose from, not just Jay Cutler. Other people have played at Vanderbilt, but y'all know that. So we'll dive into that a little bit later in the show. We have some exciting stuff coming up the next couple of days as we're going to do a Mount Rushmore on some SEC head coaches. We're going to do our all-time SEC Mount Rushmore as well, so a lot to look forward to there coming up. But do want to get underway here today with what's going on in Destin, Florida. Spring meetings are underway there right now. So as I alluded to just a minute ago, the big thing, or one of the big topics that we knew going into the week, was going to be the 9-game conference schedule. Is that what the head coaches want? Is that what the athletic directors want? Or is the idea to stay at 8 games right now? And so the sentiment that has been shared to Greg Sankey from the SEC head coaches is that that's really not something they're worried about or they're focused on right now until we have the college football playoff format finalized starting next year for 2026. And the reason being for that is kind of like we talked about yesterday, and something I wanted to bring up and have a little discussion about this morning is, what problems the college football playoff committee is, perhaps causing now in the grand scheme of the sport, and not in the sense of, hey, we created this monster, right? We wanted to go to the playoff, we wanted to expand, we wanted to be able to make more money off of, having all of these different matchups. And I think that from an entertainment purpose, it's been quite beneficial. But then I think it is fair to say that, maybe there's some question marks about, is the playoff committee and their uncertainty, I guess, that comes with how they're going to rank teams and how they're going to provide access to the playoff, is that kind of cutting off, some of the things that we would view as the greater good of the sport, right? Because I would view, the SEC going to 9 conference games, I would say that's good for the sport. I don't know if you would agree with that, Damian, but in terms of you're going to have more, going to have, the best playing the best. You're going to get more of, we love to brag and tout about how we're the greatest conference in college athletics. Okay, well, then we want to see more games of those teams playing each other. And if that comes with more money from the networks, that's great. If that comes with more access to the playoff because of playing more difficult schedules, but you have a situation right now where I guess the conference doesn't view that as beneficial to them because you have a playoff committee that has proven, like we talked about yesterday, as Greg Sankey said, they care more about how many wins you have as opposed to who you beat to get to where you are at the end of a season. And so while that continues to be the case for the committee, why would you add that ninth? That is kind of hindering the growth of the sport, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm saying this from a consumer perspective, but I have no issues with a non-team conference schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you go back to the 2020 COVID year, we got 10 games, nothing but SEC. We had nothing but conference matchups, and it was probably one of the more entertaining years, just because of the circumstances. But like you said, we have the best schools. I understand these coaches are looking at it from, well, that's a chance that we could possibly lose and knock ourselves out, but your conference is going to hold more weight. Y'all playing each other. Like, y'all are actually making it a point to have the marquee games Saturday after Saturday after Saturday. But understand it from the coach's perspective of, can we sprinkle one easy one in? Sprinkle two if we can about week 8. Can we throw it, like for Tennessee? Can we throw a UTEP in there towards the end of the season? But to me, I think that the conference rate itself, if you are at the top, you maintain your position at the top by being the best. Like, you're best. I just think that we can find, because everybody's having these discussions, and the fact that some people want it, other teams or other coaches are kind of like, nah, let's kind of brush that one to the side. But to me, yeah, 9-game conference.
I guess I just look at it like football playoff is to put the 12 or 14 or 16 best teams in there every year, but I would just think part of the process would include incentivizing schools and conferences to play difficult schedules. And it just feels like we're getting the opposite of that. And for whatever reason, I don't know. There just seems to be a disconnect there between maybe the college football playoff committee and, the athletic directors, I guess, or just the conferences and the conference commissioners. But it just seems like those two things are actively working against each other. And as long as that happens, I don't the best version of college football, because in an ideal world, I think most of us with common sense would say, okay, well, whoever gets into a playoff should ultimately be determined by, yes, what your win-loss record is, but also what was your strength of schedule? What are your marquee wins? What are your losses? What do those look like? And I don't know. I feel like there's been a number of years where maybe we didn't quite, and we just feel like certain things are not prioritized in terms of the criteria that the playoff committee uses, on top of the fact that we know the committee changes every year and you have new members. And so it's kind of like a clean slate in the sense of, oh, okay, well, maybe they view how they rank the teams differently than how last year's team did. So maybe that helps us out, maybe that'll help us out in terms of a different metric for this season. But it should just be uniform across the board, right? We don't need this guessing every single year of, oh, what's it going to take to get in the playoff, because the committee hasn't been consistent up to this point. And so I certainly think that's going to be an issue. But that right now, involves the SEC until they want to, or before they're willing to move to that ninth conference game. They want to know what the playoff format is going to be and know that they're going to have that access, and they're not hampering their chances of getting as many SEC teams in as possible by adding a ninth conference game. And then you end up in a situation like last year where you have an Alabama and Ole Miss and a South Carolina team that are all at 9-3. And in terms of strength of schedule and quality wins and things like that, they have a leg up on the SMUs of the world, yet they still find themselves on the outside looking in. So that's certainly going to be a big issue there. Another one, as we know, is the portal and NIL and how that's going to work. So this was a quote that Kirby Smart gave yesterday. He said, quote, "The biggest decision that has football right now is is the portal window or two." And according to Greg Sankey, talking with the head coaches and ADs from the conference, the consensus to be that the SEC head coaches have said they want there to be one portal window, and it would be in January, and that would be it. You're not going to have that spring portal again like you did this year where we had all the Nico drama and all that stuff. It would happen sometime in late January. From what I understand, it would probably still start during the college football playoff or before it had totally completed. But I have no problem with that. I think that's the right way to go. I think as we've seen, the value for some of these guys in the spring portal window, and I understand going through spring practice and stuff and maybe figuring out, hey, the writing's on the wall for me here. I don't know if this is going to work out. But as that are getting the big money, the guys that seem to be having more success transferring out and going somewhere else have done so in that first portal window. So I don't have a problem with that. I like that.
I'm with Kirby all the way. It should just be one time because many of the guys that we've seen hit the transfer portal in the winter months, and then as soon as spring is over, they hit the portal again. So basically, you'll be looking at your third school in a span of 6 to 8 months, and to me, that just makes no sense. And there has to be some sort of regulation for it because you're going to find yourself in, like you said, in the Nico situation. Think of Joey Aguilar, and no disrespect to him, but I don't think that when he entered the portal in the wintertime that Tennessee was necessarily looking out for, looking at him. Then he goes to UCLA. He goes through a spring at UCLA, and boom, Nico comes, and he's like, oh, like to me, they have to find some sort of way to put this either give him a month or give him 3 weeks and say, hey, nobody's going in or out of the portal. It's like your decision is made, and because they have to. That's something because I think it'll start to be a snowball effect that'll lead into NIL things. That okay, well, yeah, you ain't getting no money if you ain't at the school, big dog. Like you're not gonna tell you to wait till next year to hop into the portal because anything could happen. It's be where your feet are. That's one thing a coach told me back in the day. Just be where your feet are. Like that at some point, you made the decision to go to this school anyway. Don't take the easy way out. Okay, there are circumstances where coaching changes can happen, so you have a little bit of a window. But by January, you need to know where you're going. And okay, you got beat out in the spring. You got all summer. You got a fall camp to earn your spot back. And if not, you got another portal coming after that fall season's over. So you got to stick it out.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. So that's just a lot of the what the buzz is there in Destin this week at SEC Media Days, or excuse me, SEC meetings, spring meetings, not media days. That's coming up in July. But yeah, so resolution to some of these issues, or at least feel like we are making steps in the right direction when we come to the end of the week and people disperse there from Destin, Florida. But those are the big topics of conversation right now as it involves the SEC and Commissioner Sankey and the head coaches and athletic directors. And we will continue to dive into that throughout the week here and keep you up to date on everything going on down there. We did get an interesting quote from Kalen DeBoer, the head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide. I did want to talk about that a little bit as well, as he made some comments yesterday about, and this is more so about last season and last year's Alabama team. And I wanted to get some of y'all's take on what Kalen DeBoer had to say. But we did also have, again, Braves were in action last night. We have some college basketball news to keep you abreast of involving a very who spent last year in the state of Alabama. So we've got a lot of our Vanderbilt Mount Rushmore coming up later in the show, 205-834-9450. That'll get you on the courtesy text line. If you want to chime in about what's going on at the spring meetings, you want to send in your Vanderbilt Mount Rushmore, as many of you already have. All coming up next here on the Wednesday edition of Morning Jocks and Jocks 94.5. $6.19. Welcome back in on your Wednesday morning. Conrad and Damien with you until 7 o'clock. When we'll hand you off to McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. Greg and Cole back with you this morning from 7 to 10 alongside Damien and Saber. So they'll be with you 7 to 10. Then from 10 to 2, I'll be back with Landrum, Pat, and Molly on three-man front. And then, of course, the Paul Feinbaum show live from Destin, Florida, will come up after that from 2 to 6 here on JOX 94.5. So no need for you to touch the dial at all today. And we are just giving you an update on the latest buzz from the SEC spring meetings down there in Destin, Florida. We told you that the 9-game conference schedule is likely not going to be decided on until the playoff format for 2026 and beyond has been finalized, because coaches want clear access to the playoff. And if they think adding another conference game is going to make that more difficult, they are going to hold off on that. We also had Kirby Smart making some pointed comments about the portal and how that is the biggest question that needs to be answered right now in college football. And there seems to be a sentiment, at least in the SEC, that we need to move towards a single window that would open in January around the end of the college football playoff. And that would be that. You wouldn't have one after spring practice anymore. It'd just be the one portal window, get in or stay where you are. And I certainly don't have a problem with either of those things. So that's what's been going on there. But there was an interesting comment that I saw from Kalen DeBoer, the head coach of Alabama, yesterday. And I just wanted to bring this up quickly before we move on to the Braves and some other things that were going on last night. But this quote stuck out to me, Damien, and I want to get your thoughts on this. Maybe I'm just still a little up the way that last year went, and so I had a more visceral reaction to this quote than you did. But Kalen DeBoer yesterday, when he was asked about being left out of the college football playoff, because as we know, Alabama was the last team out, or the first team out, after Clemson beat SMU, and then they both ended up getting in. So Kalen DeBoer, when asked about Alabama getting left out of the playoff yesterday, he said, quote, "You wonder what would have happened if other people would have played our schedule." And okay, I understand from the SEC point of view of what if SMU or Indiana had played our schedule. That's really what I think he's trying to say. Not to put words in his mouth, but I think we can read between the lines, and those are probably the two easiest candidates for the teams you would look at. Maybe Boise State as well. And I understand the sentiment of, we play in the SEC, we play in a difficult conference. You know, how would other schools fare if they had to play in our conference? And it's fair. Wouldn't have, maybe they would have had a worse record than 9-3 with Alabama. You cannot say when you lose to answer questions, in my opinion, if that's still 4 months after the college football playoff, you find out you're not get out, and this is still your response. Well, what schedule? I don't know. They probably would have beat Vanderbilt. If you want to be, if that's what we're going for here, you can't pull that crap when you're losing to 500 teams. You can't. And where he didn't want to answer the question, wasn't prepared for this situation yesterday out there, and maybe he regretted it the second he said it. But I like Caleb. He's a good coach. I'm happy at Alabama, but these kinds of answers, you can't have these kinds of answers. That's not an acceptable. You are Nick Saban. You lost the same year, and one of them was under 500, 3.3, and would have won. They would have won those football games because you lost to bad teams. I'm sorry. I just had to get that off my chest. That drove me crazy when I saw that response yesterday. I'm like, how stupid could you be to give that answer? I'm sorry. I am sorry. I'm not trying to be ugly. That dude, they had played our schedule. No, me with all that. Do you think wasn't the smartest answer for him to give?
No. Appreciate your passion this morning. The Crimson started the show. It was strong. No, I think it was just a bad timing. Bad words. I think his sentiment was. I don't think it was his intention to riled up, and he'll. I think y'all will talk a little bit later.
We'll figure it out.
Y'all will, but I do agree with you. It's okay. Yeah, there are teams that Oklahoma played Vanderbilt, played Tennessee. They all played in the SEC. Tennessee played both Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. They won those games. I get what he's saying because he's talking about the strength of schedule and on the road SEC schools. But I'm with you. It's you play what's in front of you. There was a nail biter. It was Vanderbilt again. Vanderbilt was the better team that day, and it was no ands, ifs, or buts about it.
Couldn't stop.
Had your quarterback could have been better. Up finishing under 500 and you get beat 24-3. You witnessed that, like you were there. You saw it with your own two eyes. I don't agree with it. I think that coach, you can't make these excuses. You can't make these. You can't have these discussions of I wish somebody would have played. Clemson played South Carolina. They lost to them too. But the teams that you have on your schedule, it means nothing. It doesn't mean anything. You have to beat those teams. It's not about who's on your schedule. It's what the end of the result is when the clock hits zeros. That's all. Because we had the same freeze in Arkansas.
I don't know. The one time I saw it, it didn't happen. So
exactly. Tell us, you get one shot, one opportunity. Like that's all. With you, I'm like, hey, coach, I understand that. Went to Baton Rouge and pulled what Ole Miss couldn't do. You knocked off LSU. You had the coach out in the fourth quarter, having a good time. So, listen, man, I understand quality makes a difference. Comes down to it, you got to win those games.
Well, and again, yeah, it just goes back to, those are great. And if you want to, would they have been able to beat a Georgia or an LSU? And maybe they wouldn't have. But in the same breath, okay, why are you able to beat those opponents? You're not able to beat, Georgia and play, the first half of that game is 30 of the best minutes of Alabama football I've ever seen in my entire life. You turn around and play a bad, have essentially a miracle from Ryan Williams and then an interception from Xavier Brown to win that game. And then you turn around the next week and you go to Nashville where you have more Alabama fans in the stands than Vanderbilt fans and you lose that football game. Like, I understand, again, what he's saying, and I don't think that he meant for me to take it the way that I did, but that stuff drives me crazy. And again, love Kalen DeBoer, think he's the right coach for Alabama, but it's just some of those things where it's like you could have said that in the past. You could say that at Washington maybe. Well, maybe not in the Pac-12 with their schedule, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah. The fan base isn't going to react the same way to those comments at your previous stops, but at Alabama, you don't get to,
Yeah.
You certainly don't get to make them right now before you've even made a playoff or won a national championship yourself at Alabama. Then we can have that conversation, but you have to earn that.
Poor choice of words. Choice of words. And again, I understand your passion, Conrad. Me and you both, man. We're both big Alabama fans.
Don't do this.
And it just hits your ear. Life. We'd never
heard that.
But poor choice of words. The only thing we can do now is just see where we went wrong. Correct. Listen, it's a new era. Last season was last season. The fact that we're even bringing it up hurts my soul. We've already flushed that one down. Roll Tide.
Thank you, Damien. You're right. You're right. We are moving on here, but I appreciate some of you on the text line. It seems like I'm not the only one that's crazy this morning. Somebody for the coach in the front, Landrum. I'm Conrad, but I appreciate I'm sorry it's early, but
hey, I
thought that was funny. Someone says, better choice of words next time. Coach Bobby said, red ass Conrad. Yeah, I didn't plan for that, but it is what it is. You're upset, but you're way overreacting. Well, it just means more to me, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Got too much Bama in you.
Got too much. Antoine says the easy response for him would have been, we had an opportunity, but we didn't do what we needed to do to have, but I didn't, excuse me, I messed that up. Antoine says the response had an opportunity, but I didn't do what I needed to do to have my guys ready to play.
Boom.
There you go.
And
Take it.
Right.
And,
all right.
yep, Jamie chimes in and goes, roll damn Tide. Yep.
Same.
So let's,
Roll Tide.
hey, coach, it happened. But like Damien said, we're on to 2025. Roll Tide. So I just had to get that off my chest a little bit this morning. Didn't mean for that to go as long as it did, but yeah, that one didn't sit right with me yesterday. So I wanted to go into that a little bit here.
And then Rushmore too. You got it.
Thank you, Damien.
Another reminder.
That was, yes, that is a perfect segue, as we do have our Mount Rushmore of Vanderbilt football. To that, a couple more things to hit from last year, but if you want to send yours in, a bunch of you already have. Not as many as you. Not surprising.
I think I dig
with Vanderbilt, but if you want to send those in, you still have time. 205-834-9450. Going to take a quick break. Damien will give his, and then we will get yours on the courtesy GMC text line. You're 6:36. Welcome back in. Morning JOX 94.5. Conrad, appreciate you tuning in and joining us here this morning, talking about spring meetings down in Destin for the SEC. Had to get a couple things off my chest involving Alabama football, and here we are as we are about to head into our Vanderbilt Mount Rushmore in just a few moments. But quickly did want to give you an update last night as the Atlanta Braves were in action, taking on the Philadelphia Phillies, a big series here, a big opportunity for Atlanta on the road to gain some ground there in the NL East. Well, the good news is that Spencer Strider pitched again.
There we go.
First outing.
Okay.
That you lost the game.
It happens.
So that is unfortunate. But the Phillies, they take a 2-0 win over the Braves last night, shut out Atlanta. But Spencer Strider, as I mentioned, he did go 4 2/3, so not a long outing. Like he came out because of injury reasons or anything like that. He threw 90 pitches. He's on a pitch count as they work him back. But he gave up 1 hit, 1 earned run on an RBI double that he gave up early. He did walk 4 batters, so struggling a little bit with command, but 7 strikeouts in 4 2/3 innings. So certainly working back in the right direction. And as we know, when Spencer Strider's healthy, arguably the best pitcher in the National League, certainly one of the very best. So good sign for him that he's kind of getting back into things. But Atlanta, they fall 2-0. Perez with a stellar outing for Philadelphia. He goes 6 innings, no earned runs, 8 Ks, only gives up 4 hits to the Braves last night. So, yeah, not an ideal outing there for Atlanta as they now fall, and they are 9.5 games back of the Philadelphia Phillies at 25-28 overall on the season. But they get back on the bump tonight against the Phillies as that game will be another first pitch there from Philadelphia. You're going to have A.J. Smith-Shawver, it looks like, going up against Zach Wheeler. So an excellent pitching duel there tonight for the Atlanta Braves as they try to get back to their winning ways. All right. As we have teased this, and if you listen to the show, you know that we do this each and every day, or at least we have for the last 15, now 16 days. So this is the final edition with program for 4 greatest players from mine and Damien's lifetime, which is about the last 30 years or so. And those are our Mount Rushmores. Now, some of you been around a little bit longer, so maybe you have a little bit different perspective, but we give you our Mount 5834-9450. And so going to cap off the SEC. And I'll get started. More first, some honorable. There are honorable mentions for Vanderbilt. So, because I'm sure he's on his Mount Rushmore, but I went with Jordan Matthews, wide receiver, as an honorable mention. I know.
Okay.
And then I honestly forgot about one guy, and I went, I think I have to replace him.
Okay.
So Jordan Matthews would be mine. Zach State, great running back. Corey Chavis, another mention for me.
Hadn't heard that name in a while.
Yeah. And maybe this is just me drinking the and we'll see what happens this year, but the way because of the narrative of Vanderbilt football in just 1 year, beat the number. I
Gotcha.
So my Vanderbilt Mount Rushmore, though, Jay Cutler, got to start at the top with Jay Cutler, the best quarterback in Vanderbilt history, went on to have a solid NFL career.
Yep.
Now maybe, not the biggest personality in the world, but he could spend the best running back, the all-time leading rusher there for the Commodores, another great. So I have Jay Cutler, Zach Cunningham.
Yep.
Absolute dog at linebacker there for the Commodores, 2-time All-SEC member and an All-American. And then Jordan Matthews with, because I to Vanderbilt, Casey Hayward.
Corner.
Casey Hayward.
Until you said something, I completely forgot him. Yeah,
I did. Absolutely forgot that he. I mean, 2 times going off of what they did in the NFL, but I mean, made 2 All-Pro teams, couple of Pro Bowl. receptions.
Man.
He was an second team All SEC.
That's a good pull. That's a good
So Casey
pull.
Hayward was the one I had to bump Jordan Matthews for. I'm sorry, Jordan Matthews. But yeah, so that's my Mount Hayward. Where are you going, Damian?
You threw a ring.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna stick with what I got for now. I will throw Casey Hayward in my honorable mention.
Okay.
For honorable mention, for listen. He had a great.
Absolutely.
And he does exceptional work on our ESPN family of networks.
Exactly.
You can hear him with Prime Time on the SEC Network with our buddy Cole Kubelik and Tom Rogers. I also have Ralph Webb, honorable mentions.
Dog.
And one that's near and dear to us. My boy. Got Everett Robinson as an honorable mention as well. Shout out to E-Rob. Got some. But Jay Cutler, the best quarterback to come through Vanderbilt. Yep. I mean, you let the numbers speak for themselves. Now, wins and losses, it's not what we're discussing.
Nope.
But as far as all overall congratulations to Jay Cutler. I have Jordan Mount Rushmore.
And as I knew you would, you're a receiver.
Yeah, I had Jordan Matthews in my Mount Rushmore. When they were, quote-unquote, lighting it up, he was one of the guys that was pretty much give him the ball by any means necessary. I also have Zach Cunningham in my Mount Rushmore. And you have him in your honorable mention, but I'm already putting him up there. I care less what happens.
Really?
Diego Favia.
Wow.
And when you knock out that nobody has ever done in a Vanderbilt uniform.
That's fair.
You're up there.
That's fair.
And he runs the state of Alabama.
Yeah. Certainly got the best of Alabama and Auburn last year, and Auburn a couple times in his career now. So, yeah. Also, forgot about this. I forgot Zach Cunningham went to Pinson.
Oh, yeah. He's a Pinson.
Totally forgot about that.
Yes, sir.
So honestly, I'll be completely honest. Had to put some guys on the chopping block for Vanderbilt, and I just went boom, boom, boom off the top of my head. What else is? I was like, I have a number of these guys.
So in this practice, would you say Missouri was the hardest one outside of, like the usual, like the Alabamas and Georgia, but like of truly finding 4 players?
Yes, Missouri was probably the hardest.
Missouri was the hardest.
Yeah, Kentucky was a little difficult as well. But yeah, probably Missouri.
It was Missouri to this. Yeah,
that one was tough. But yeah, difficult like Alabama and Auburn because you have so many to pick. Missouri was surprisingly probably the most difficult there. So, so those are. You are sitting yours in at 205-834-9450. So we're going to take a quick break, come right back, and we are going to read your Vanderbilt Mount Rushmores as we put a cap on our SEC Mount Rushmore series. Here, you're listening to Morning JOX. Few more here on Morning Jocks. Conrad and Damien here with you. So we put a bow on today's show with your Vanderbilt Mount Rushmores. We've gone through all 16 teams. It's flown by really fast. Yeah, we've gone through all 16 teams now in the SEC. So Vanderbilt was our final one. We started off with all about 2.5 weeks ago, and here we are putting Vanderbilt. And we already have somebody that chimed in this morning, Luke. He chimes in. He says, y'all should do an all. Well, you know what, Luke? I like where your head's at because I'm going to do tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going to do our all SEC Mount Rushmore. And I feel bad already because I already know 3 people that are going to be on mine, and they're all quarterbacks. So we might have to do a quarterback one and then a non-quarterback one. Just because.
I like that.
So we may have to do something like that because, I mean, everyone's going to have Tim Tebow, Cam Newton,
Joe Burrow.
Those are going to be very, very popular names. And that's just from the modern era.
And now you throw in Baker, Kyler Murray, Colt McCoy.
Okay. People that.
I got you.
I would not count them because.
All their stats are in the Big 12.
Yeah, it's different with the Mount Rushmore because that's just the history of the program as opposed to the all SEC. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to have any Oklahoma or Texas representation, but hey, maybe you really think Arch Manning is going to pop off this year and you want to put him on yours.
Or Quinn Ewers.
Yeah, or that. So we're going to do that. Lewis says, no, y'all should man up and just pick 4. No quarterback only list. Okay, I mean.
Okay, Lewis, my fault.
If we want to do just 4, we can, but one position is going to be what. Tell y'all that right now. But all Friday, we're going to do SEC head coaches, the Mount Rushmore, who we think the 4 greatest head football coaches are in the history of the Southeastern Conference. So, a couple of days. But we do have your Mount Rushmores to get to now at 205-834-9450. And we will start with our guy, Lewis, because he sent his in first, as he does each and every day, just about. So his Mount Rushmore, he's going Zach Cunningham, Jordan Rogers, Clark Lee, and I know I'm going to mispronounce this guy's name, but he's the Alabama, you're next. He was that player, if you remember that. Nafea Liea. I can't remember. I'm sorry. I probably butchered his pronunciation. But, yeah, he was the Alabama, you're next guy, and we all remember how that went for them.
So, fun. So, I think that was 2018?
Yeah, something like that.
I went to Vanderbilt versus UNLV. Don't ask me how I ended up there, but I ended up there. Tickets were only $3. Crazy enough.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt lost that game.
Yep.
This ranked, I think, like 17 at that time. They beat when he makes that statement. It's like, nah.
Yeah, if I remember.
Like, that ain't the move.
If I remember correctly.
Alabama, you're next.
Yeah, that was not one of the better things he said. We'll always remember him for that, if nothing else. All right, continuing on. Let's see. Someone else chimes in with their Andy. They go Jay Cutler, Zach Stacy, Jordan Matthew, and Casey Hayward.
That was Casey Hayward.
Well, this is mean towards Vanderbilt, but we were kind of joking in the break, and we were just like, man, I completely forgot about that. And I was like, yeah, I just kind of randomly had that, thrown in front of me a couple days ago where I realized, oh, yeah, I forgot that he played for Vanderbilt. It's just more so, man, I thought Casey Hayward, thought he would have gone somewhere bigger than that. No offense to Vanderbilt, but, he's...
Just admit for Vanderbilt.
He's a dog.
You thought he was too good for Vanderbilt.
I mean, we see what he's turned into, obviously. But, hey, Vanderbilt...
Exactly.
Let's see. Someone chiming in from North Carolina. They go Jay Cutler, Jordan Rogers, Bill Wade, and Diego Pavia, and they say you have to put him in there because of the win over Alabama last year. Yeah, it's the biggest win in program history. Eric in Adamsville, Birmingham's own Earl Bennett, Jay Cutler, Jamie Winborn, and Jordan Matthews for his Vanderbilt Mount Rushmore. Let's see. Jamari from Talladega chimes in. He goes Meyer, Jordan Matthews, Jordan Rogers, and Jay Cutler. Like that list there, Jamari. Let's see. Brandon chimes in. He goes Jay Cutler, Bill Wade, Zach Cunningham, Jordan Matthews. Honorable mentions for him: Hunter Hillenmeyer, Casey Hayward, Jamie Winborn, and Earl Bennett. Good list there. Dexter chimes in. Earl Bennett, Jordan Matthews. All right. Jay Cutler, Zach Cunningham, Ralph Webb, and Alabama's 2024 defense. That's certainly
I'm out.
Cutler, Jordan Matthews, Ralph Webb, Cunningham. Our buddy Jay Cutler, Ralph Webb, Zach Cunningham, and Whit Taylor. All right. And as long as he can, because we all know he's not making it past that. Well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He's doing well right now.
He's making some good money in college nowadays.
Yeah, and then someone says maybe do an all SEC offense and defense Mount Rushmore. So maybe that's something we can get into next week. But we're going to do for tomorrow. But McElroy and Kublick in the morning. They're